Welcome back, and now we get to the third and final of the Hobbit trilogy, The Hobbit, The War of the Five Armies, Battle of the Five Armies. I'm mistaken. This was definitely a good movie. Like the problem I had with the film is that I had to see it in 3D because I saw it in a cheap theater. I didn't want to spend $15 on it, so I went to a cheap theater to see it. It's a great experience though, even though it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I'll never forget it. The first 10 minutes were fantastic. You had Smaug, basically the end of Desolation of Smaug, where he's flying towards this small village, burning it down to the ground. Amazing special effects. I mean, Thorin pretty much shoots like a catapult or whatever, like a spear, right at Smaug, and it hits him right in the heart, and it dies. It's kind of abrupt, but Benedict Cumberbatch was doing other stuff, Sherlock, and it was getting ready to be Doctor Strange, so it was a good appearance from him. You have appearances from Galadriel from the original Lord of the Rings, Kate Blanchett. It was good to see her again. She has a couple scenes in the film. You have Christopher Lee. This was his last film, so rest in peace, Christopher Lee. We'll never forget you. You were great as Saruman. Just a really great character, really evil. That voice just very haunting. And once again, this movie, like all the Lord of the Rings films and all the Hobbit films, amazing visual style. Just I love looking at these movies. There was an epic feel to this. The Battle of the Five Armies is not 5 minutes. It's long. Like past the first hour of the movie, there's a lot of battles. There's a lot of action. This one is definitely more action oriented than the first two. There's a lot more battles. You have the battle with the five armies is great. You have this actor, this Scottish actor from I think Billy Boyd or something like that. I forgot his name. He's a Scottish actor. He plays a guy with a big beard and he's riding on an animal, and he leads the five armies. It's really compelling stuff. You got the battle with the orcs, the albino orcs, and of course there's some spoilers in this review, so be warned. Thorin dies in the film. One of the dwarfs. He becomes when he becomes king and he wears the crown. He's like, "Oh, this is my kingdom of the dwarfs, and I'm going to rule it with an iron fist." And then he challenges an orc and he dies. And I kind of knew that because I'm like, they never mentioned him in the original Lord of the Rings films. But again, the action sequence is really well done in this film. I know it's a lot of CG, I get it, but so did Harry Potter. Had a lot of CGI. Every MCU movie with big battles had a lot of CGI, and also did the original Lord of the Rings as well. It's the massive scale that I like. I love seeing the battles. They're not shaking the camera, so I can't see what's going on. It's really well edited. The actors are really trying. They're pulling their all into this movie. Evangeline Lilly, Orlando Bloom, Ian McKellen. I mean, these some of these actors are really old. Like Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee were well past their prime, and yet they still were good in the movie. So the acting is never a problem in these films for the most part. Does it feel overstuffed at times? Yes, because it is a last film. I mean, Return of the King was so long; it had like three endings. It had like 15 endings of the movie, and I was like, God, this movie is way too long. That's one problem I had with Return of the King, that it's just way too long. Like almost 4 hours to tell a story that I think in 3 hours you could have done it in 3 hours, not three and a half or whatever. Here it's only 2 hours and 49 minutes, I believe. I don't know the running time, so bear with me, but it's really an epic scale. Like if you want a great finale to a prequel trilogy, this is really well done. Is it better than Revenge of the Sith? Debatable. I still think Revenge of the Sith is shorter, so but it has that epic feel. Like there's a lot going on, but I care what's going on. Smaug dies abruptly, kind of an anticlimactic for him, but Cumberbatch did his job. And Martin Freeman once again carries the film. He has a really good sense of humor, really good chemistry with the rest of the actors that play the dwarfs, and also with Ian McKellen. It is his journey. He goes from some, what you might call it, a Baggins, one that's living in the Shire that doesn't want, wants to keep to himself, and then he becomes a hero. And I like seeing Martin Freeman kicking ass. It's awesome seeing him in this movie and being a strong character because he definitely grows in each film. That's what works. He's shy and timid and just is alone in the Shire to being a badass, and that's always great to see him be a compelling character become a badass the right way. You don't do it in the first movie, you do it, you slowly build it up. That's what works in these movies that don't work in the new Star Wars films, in my opinion. These hybrids that they just want to rush characters and just do things all at once. And I'm like, no, build up, and it leads to a much better result, in my opinion. That's why these movies, I never left them mixed. I'm always entertained by fantasy films like this on an epic scale. Watching it on a big screen, the crowd wasn't too big, but it was vocal. They clapped and they laughed at times, and they were entertained. I could tell they were, even though it was a few people. I definitely had a better time with this than Suicide Squad because I saw it in the same theater. This was way better. I was never bored. I thought it was a really good story. To wrap up the trilogy, I was fine with it. It didn't have constant references winking at the camera like TFA, where everything is like a reference and a nod to the first film. But here, it ties up the loose ends. It makes the battles mean something. It's not just mindless action that has no consequences. People die, but it's done in a way that's effective. It's not done like, oh, let's just kill Thorin just because. No, his death means something. It's actually symbolic, and it works here. It's not forced, and it's a really well done movie. Like, I was entertained. Did I think it topped Desolation of Smaug? No, I thought Destination of Smaug was still a better film because I thought, it was, there was no way they could top it. I was very entertained by that, and through and through. And Smaug was great. Benedict Cumberbatch's performance here. It was a really good finale. Well done. Peter Jackson doesn't get enough credit. People are like, have been giving him shit since he did Lord of the Rings. Sorry, this was a movie that these are the kind of movies that made him money in the first place. When he did Dead Alive and Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles, those did not make money in the US. They were like cult films pretty much. But when he did this, he got into the mainstream and it worked. Middle Earth looks beautiful. Every single shot in the movie, I love looking at the film. It's not an ugly film like Gods of Egypt. It has a story that's compelling. It has characters I like, actors I like that are mostly foreign. Oh my God, who knew? I like the movie that stars a Brit in it, and it's never gets boring. Yet, with some other franchises, they put it in everything and it doesn't work. I don't know what kind of world we're living in when fantasy films do it better than some sci-fi and action movies and so on and so forth. And this was not a reboot. It was a prequel trilogy that worked in its favor. I know a lot of people disagree with me. I don't care. I like both of these films. These are good sequels. They're not like freaking Zoolander 2 or Independence Day 2. They don't make the first movie pointless. That never do a sequel like that. That's when a sequel fails, and I don't think this movie failed. It's good. Did it make as much money as when did it come out? 2014. It was not the biggest movie of that year. I think what was the biggest movie? I think Guardians of the Galaxy was. Yeah, that wasn't really the biggest year for films either. But Guardians of the Galaxy was great. It's definitely better than this, and so was the Lego Movie. But I think this is a really good movie. It was definitely overlooked at the Academy. The Academy were just jerking off to whatever the movie was big that year. I think it was 12 Years a Slave. I'm sorry. I want to be entertained. I don't want to be bored out of my mind. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want a movie to hit me so hard that I'm like crying for days. I don't need that. I want to be entertained. If I feel something along the way, it's an added bonus. Because I watched Supergirl last year. I cried in one episode. I did. A Flash episode. I watched it. I cried. I watched plenty of things where I've cried and I've been entertained. You can do both. You don't need to do the pander and just throw some drama in my face. You can have dramatic moments. This movie has plenty of that and it works. So that's all I can say about the Battle of the Five Armies. It's a good movie. I definitely would recommend it. All the three of these films and the prequels and the original films as well, done by Peter Jackson. That is. And once again, just like the first two films in the prequel trilogy, I need to see the extended versions so I can see what they added. And it's been years since I've seen these movies, but I do remember most of it in my head. I didn't want to summarize the whole film. There's just too much in it. And there's some things I haven't seen, but I do remember them being entertaining. All of them. All three. There's not a bad movie in the bunch. And thanks to these movies, uh, you know, prequel trilogies can work. See, if you do it right. When you don't do it right, you get stuff like Divergent that has a third movie that bombed and nobody cared. Here, people cared because Middle Earth is a really great place to be. It's a cinematic wonderland for fantasy buffs. No one's ever said that on YouTube, and I'm the first. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for enduring these reviews. You know, I've been reviewing a bunch of stuff ever since January, the beginning of January. I'm proud to do these videos for you guys. I finally got a new hat this year, so we're heading towards we're looking towards the future, and February is going to be a great month. I can't wait for it. Reviewing more movies and more shows on the way, and well, a lot of entertaining stuff is heading my way in 2017. I can feel it, man. This is not going to be the disaster last year was, especially most of last year. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time.